During my career, I probably made every fucking mistake possible when it comes to writing specs and requirements, so you don't have to. This is the first video in the series of videos where I'll be sharing my personal stories and experiences from 10 years of product management. You'll hear firsthand what I learned along the way, discover what works, what doesn't work when it comes to product requirements and product specifications. Before I jump into my stories, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Marko. I'm the CEO of SwipeSpec. We are AI-powered lightweight requirements management tool, and I encourage you to go to our website, SwipeSpec.com. There is a waiting list form. Get yourself on the list, and I will make sure that you get access to the tool as soon as possible. When I started with my product management career, I had zero previous experience with specifications and requirements. Up to that point, I was mostly working as a web developer and a freelancer, and I was receiving specifications more than I was writing them. One thing that I did know for sure after doing some freelance projects and web development is that if you didn't have written specifications or properly written specifications, the project will break deadlines or go over budget, or it will not even be finished at all. This brings me to the first lesson I want to share with you, and that is that writing specs down is much better than not having anything written. Regardless of how big or small your team or project are, sitting down ahead of time, speccing it out is going to have multiple benefits for you. First benefit is that you will sit down and think about your project ahead of time, which will probably already introduce some changes to the idea. Second benefit is that it's much cheaper and faster to iterate on a written word or a specification than after you already spent time and money developing something. If you have things written down, it's much easier for you to share your vision and ideas with other people that are helping you out on this project. On the other hand, if you're a solo player and there is no one helping you, having specs written down ahead of time will help you focus, and it will become sort of like your to-do list, so you will not have to explore for features and functionalities while you're already building it. So, sort of to summarize, if you have nothing written, the first lesson is most important. It's more important than any other lesson that I'll be sharing in the future. Going from nothing to something will make the biggest difference. In later videos, we will apply other lessons, but the core here is for you to start writing things down. So I learned this lesson the hard way. When I first joined Rimac Automobili, a hypercar company making the fastest accelerating hypercar in the world, I was tasked to create M2M dashboard. It's sort of like F1 pit stop interface for remote diagnostic and monitoring of the car. As it was startup back when I joined them, all of us had multiple roles, so besides just coding the dashboard, I had to also figure out what the dashboard is. My first instinct as a previous developer was to go ahead, start coding, and because I have a design degree, I was also starting to wireframe, and I actually jumped into the work before I actually wrote the spec down. I took, I think, a month and a half before I showed anyone what I was working on. Because I didn't write anything down ahead of time, while I was wireframing and while I was developing this first version of it, I was introducing more different features. I was basically giving myself this feature creep, and of course I break all the deadlines, and the end result wasn't that good. Parts of what I was working on wasn't even needed. Parts were not possible because the car didn't have the sensor, or it was not a signal that was shared to the cloud, or parts that were good could have been better if I introduced user feedback earlier. Of course, this felt super frustrating and I felt bad, and now thinking back, I know I could have avoided all of this had I written things down ahead of time. Take my story as a lesson. Even if you're a student working on your first project that you're giving to yourself, write down what your goals are and what you want to build ahead of starting, and then go and build it. This will give you time to think ahead of spending time and money and effort into working on your product. I personally learned this the hard way when I was deep into my career already, and if I knew then what I know now, I would have done things very differently. If you learned anything today, subscribe to our channel. I will be sharing my next spec writing lesson very soon. Like this video if you liked it, and go to our website, get yourself on our waiting list, and let my startup help you start writing proper specifications and requirements easier. Talk to you in the next one.